depth chart, if you look, I know positions aren't what they used to be, but if you look at a depth chart, there's no real clear backup four on the roster. Do you have an idea how you'll do that? Will it be more by committee than it was last year, or game to game?
Again, I think you said it best. Is we don't need to have guys that are just one position. Right. We feel like we have a bunch of guys that can play positionless basketball, and it helps their skill set. So what we'll do is just put the combinations that we see that work best for us, and we're not worried about having a backup one or a backup two. We're trying to get talent on the floor.
Right. I don't think Isaiah played much, very little of power forward last year. Could he be a part of that mix this year?
Yeah.
Coach, yesterday you talked about the difficulty of having a running team, but also at the same time being like a really good defensive team. How impressed were you when you look back at last year, knowing that this team finished as one of the fastest, but they also finished top 10 in defense?
I think it's the way you go about it, right? There's a way that you can defend and be explosive, and that's what we aim to do. We're not here to just concede baskets so that you get into this up and down game. What we want to do is make sure that our identity is on the defensive end, and then you can go from a great defensive team to an explosive offensive team.
Along with that, plus the personnel that you have, would you like to see this team pick up the tempo even more going into this upcoming season?
If possible.
One thing Darren mentioned on Monday about defense was just his mobility. He said he worked on that aspect, his timing. Just coming out of last season, but especially the playoffs, like what were the areas for emphasis for Darren as far as what you wanted to see from him?
Just the improvement and the anticipation. And I think that comes a lot with experience, right? Like knowing what teams are doing, knowing players' strengths and weaknesses, the areas they like to attack from, all those things. And how he can do a better job of patrolling the paint and communicating with guys on the perimeter to help them as well.
How likely the fact that last season was kind of like step A, you're now on step B as far as like installing different concepts. What's your process as far as like not wanting to install things too fast and then also kind of doing things that
you got to make sure you're good at what you're good at, and then you can make steps. And I think last year, although we weren't perfect, we proved that we could be a good defensive team and that we understood our foundation. So understanding the foundation allows you to take the next step, and that's what this year will be.
How much of a concern is it that you lost a lot of volume with the three-point shooting? Do you need to get back to roughly the same, I think about 40% of your shots last year were threes? Is that a sort of a benchmark, and is it a concern of how you're going to get there this year?
No, I think we're built to be different, and what might be good for everybody else might not be good for us. Our job is to be efficient offensively, and if we're going to play faster, and aim to win the possession game, that's where we can gain a benefit if we lose some of those three-point shots by not allowing them to get shots and then create extra opportunities for ourselves.
Coach, you mentioned in media day that you're going to try not to do this many technical fouls this year. You joked it was a funny moment. Did that decision come about through self-scouting, or did you consult with people who you trust in the league?
My mom and kids were embarrassed,
okay,
so I'll try to do better for them.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate it.
All right, appreciate y'all.